Mirari's Wake, Test of Endurance, Sylvan Safekeeper, these are just a few of the powerful cards that came out of Magic's 26th expansion, and it is a small expansion, Judgment.
But those aren't the cards we're talking about today. No, today we're talking about the EDH cards that are cheaper, under the radar, sleepers, that you might be able to pick up for just a few bucks, but we think are powerful, and the video starts right now. Special thanks to our Patreon supporters who power our channel. Check out our Patreon for monthly giveaways, exclusive content, and even a starring role in our fan fight series. Link in the description below.
Hello and welcome to the day.
Thank you for spending your time with us.
I'm Jake.
I'm Joel. Welcome back to another episode of Jake and Joel Are Magic. We're going to talk about MTG's 26th expansion, Judgment, and the Commander sleepers that we think it holds. But first, if you liked the video by the end of it and you wouldn't mind, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. It really helps us out.
It's the best way to support the channel with just the click of a button.
Let's jump into these cards. Normally with our Commander Sleeper series, we cover rares and mythic rares, but we do occasionally like to start with a featured common or uncommon. And Jake, we're going to start with Planar Chaos today. 1 red, 2 other, enchantment, so it's sticky. At the beginning of your upkeep, flip a coin. If you lose the flip, sack Planar Chaos. Whenever a player plays a spell, that player flips a coin. If he or she loses the flip, counter that spell.
So just absolute shenanigans going on here. Very casual card, very fun card, and very cheap card. So if you're building a coin flip kind of deck, this is going to be a must-include card. It's a really fun card, and it's a counter spell in red. Obviously, there's a bunch of loopholes to go through, but it does counter things, and it is a red enchantment.
Yeah, I like the chaotic aspect of it. It's about $1 or $2. You can pick it up. We did have the Battle Bond commanders that were all about coin flips last year, and so I think this one saw a little rise in price, but it's still a very affordable card that if you are in red and you're not in, blue or say, and you want some kind of stop on your opponent's plans, Planar Chaos might provide that. Jake, let's get into these rares.
Yeah, so 2 white, 3 other for Glory, Creature, Incarnation. Flying. Creatures you control gain protection from the color of your choice until end of turn. Play this ability only if Glory is in your graveyard. So very cool card, very interesting card, and just get it in the graveyard and now you have this really, really cool repeatable ability.
Yeah, agreed. I like that you're able to, if you have the mana, use the ability more than once. You can use this in response to targeted removal. You can use this in response or proactively, as you're attacking to get your line through different creatures that might be blocking. Glory is, $3-ish. It has been reprinted once, I believe, maybe twice. But this is the OG, and this is, in my opinion, the frame that the foil will look the best in.
Yeah, and for sure, keep in mind that the foils in these old frames, these kind of things, these are the kind of cards that go up. You're going to see Glory is going to be $3, but the foil is going to end up being like $30.
Yeah.
And the reason is because people seek out those old border foil cards because they just look so good, and the foils back then were so much better made. That's just an opinion, but the foils that come out, they just don't stand up to those old foils, in my opinion.
Next up, we've got Epic Struggle. We've covered this card before in our EDH tier list of You Win the Game cards. But it is an enchantment, 2 green, 2 other. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you control 20 or more creatures, you win.
Just straight up, token strategies come to mind. This looks like a really good, if you're playing Gav, Guru of Spores, this is the perfect kind of card to go into that deck. It's just okay, I've got a board full of 50 tokens. Let's just jam Epic Struggle, and if it makes it to the upkeep, then we're just going to end the game right there.
Right.
I really do like cards like this, and you have to think, sometimes EDH gets monotonous, it gets boring. Sometimes games go on forever, and just throwing in a random win condition, something like this, or Approach to the Second Sun, or something like that, it's helpful sometimes. It gets the next game going.
Oh yeah, I love cards that say you win the game on them. Much like Glory, we've got Genesis up next.
Now clearly this is an old card. This is a card that has been reprinted a lot. We've seen it reprinted. So the reason it's on this list is because this is the OG. This is like, if you're trying to get the original Genesis, this is where you have to go.
That art is so cool. It's a 4/4 incarnation for 5, but at the beginning of your upkeep, if Genesis is in your graveyard, you may pay that 3 mana that we saw similar to Glory. If you do, return target creature from your graveyard to your hand. Lots of synergy with lots of different types of builds in Commander. It's a fantastic card. Like Jake said, this has
very
been reprinted.
Nightmarish art.
Oh yeah,
it's like very like, I mean, not like nightmarish, but like just surreal, and it's kind of nightmarish.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I like it a lot. In a
I
good
love
way.
it. Yeah. I agree completely. Seed Time is up next. This is an instant. 1 green, 1 other. Play it only during your turn. But it says take an extra turn after this one if an opponent played a blue spell this turn. If you've got somebody in your commander pod or your normal play group that is always running counterspell decks, pull this card, put it into your green deck, surprise them the next time they go to counterspell whatever it is you do, and be like, okay, I'll take an extra turn for 1 green and 1 other.
Yeah, and then play Reclaim and get it back.
Right.
Or Eternal Witness and get it back. It'd be like, do you want to play this Song and Dance? Because let's cast that Force of Will.
Yeah, I don't mind. Go ahead and counter it. I'd love an extra turn for 2 mana. I've got Nomad Mythmaker up next. Jake, look at this dude's eyes.
Oh yeah, he's into whatever he's going on about, and so is everybody there.
Yeah, it's a cleric for 3/2/2. Pay 1, tap it. Put target enchant creature card from a graveyard into play, enchanting a creature you control. It's any enchant creature card, so aura, from any graveyard into play, enchanting a creature you control. Obviously, Enchantress builds are going to love this card, but I think that it's got even further utility past that. Some kind of mill if you've got a big auras player in your pod.
Sure.
You could find utility like that, but
I think sometimes you're going to find a good aura. Obviously, this is going to thrive if it is built into a deck that is going to support its ability. But sometimes you're going to be able to steal an aura out of somebody's graveyard, and that's really cool as well.
That's exactly right. Put this into your Bant Enchantress deck or your Naya Enchantress deck, and watch your opponent's eyes get big whenever they are able to kill that creature that Eldrazi Conscription went on. We'll just return it right from the graveyard to the battlefield.
I mean, that's very, very mana efficient. I like it.
It is brutal. Jake, in this next one, we've got, I think, a picture of you when you're 80. Is that accurate?
Maybe. No, this guy is looking at a picture of me when I'm 80. All right, no, here. Okay, so 3 blue, 3 other, Spelljack, instant, counter target spell. If it's countered this way, remove it from the game instead of putting it into its owner's graveyard. As long as it remains removed from the game, you may play it as though it were in your hand without paying its mana cost. If it has X and its mana cost, X is 0. So this is a really, really fun card. Counter a spell, and you get it.
Yeah, it reminds me of things like bribery. It reminds me of, desertion, spells like that. It's just another way to have redundancy on, I've got a Gandalf deck you shall not cast, and I'm also going to be stealing the things as I Gandalf your entire strategy.
Yeah, I think it's a really brutal card. I think in certain situations, 6 mana is pretty restrictive, but I think it's a really good and powerful card.
Yeah, plus I do love the art. We made light of it, but this was back when, just the art could be a little wackier. We are starting to see a transition into more of, fantasy realism. However, we still have that, hand-drawn look. He is spelljacking something with his spell book, his fingernails, his hair.
So if you're looking for a nice big counter spell in a more casual play group, something that is, playing a 6-cost spell isn't going to be too slow, Spelljack might be the card for you.
Yeah, definitely. Morality Shift is up next. We've got another very high cost spell here, 5, 6, 7 for a sorcery, but this just lets you exchange your graveyard and your library, then shuffle your library. So if you've got cards in your library like Laboratory Maniac or like Jace Wielder or Oracle of Thassa's Oracle, excuse me, you may want to just make it so that there are no cards in your library. So have your graveyard absolutely exiled, absolutely empty, and cast Morality Shift. It's one way. It's a very expensive way, but it's a very straightforward way, kind of like Hermit Druid. I like
that.
Yeah, Hermit Druid is one of the most commonly used ways to get your library down to 0. I could see Morality Shift be used in that same way.
So yes, I think that's a really good point. The fact that you can use this card as redundancy for something like, Demonic Consultation or Dance with the Dead, and now you have removed your library from the game. There is no graveyard to replace it with. I do see that as a very niche effect, but that's what this series is about. That's what this series is. It's cards that have very niche effects that can help you win the game. And I do think that if you are casting Morality Shift for 7 mana, you should have it set up in such a way where you are going to win the game from it.
Well, there are a lot of cards that allow you to return all creatures from your graveyard to the battlefield, all creatures from all graveyards to the battlefield.
That's right.
And if you've got 5 or 10 cards in your graveyard already, it's a very expensive way to go about doing this. But if you've got some buffer already in your graveyard, you cast Morality Shift, get all of the cards in your library into your graveyard, and your graveyard becomes your library.
And then you
cast
Living Death. Yeah.
Right, exactly. That's what I'm getting at. And this is probably a situation where you're going to want them to have haste as well, so that's even more mana committed to this. But I think it's a cool card that could find some application, and it's the Sleeper Series, so it's like $1 or $2, and it gets everything in your library into your graveyard, so you can take advantage of that.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Having like anger in the graveyard, and then you cast like a Patriarch's Bid and get everything back.
Right.
7 mana. This is never going to find its way into any format other than Commander. So if this card ever has a chance to shine, it's going to be in Commander.
When a deck like Carador, too, all of a sudden they've got access to literally every creature in their deck, and they can pull out the specific ones they want. I bet you can find some creatures that let you put cards from your graveyard into your library as it ETBs or dies, triggers, whatever, so that you can make sure you don't lose the game from drawing nothing in your library. But this is a very, one-hit punch way of making sure that Carador has all the gas that the Ghost Chieftain needs.
Or, this is a card that's hot right now is Nethroi. Everybody's kind of tinkering with how do we build Nethroi, and I think Morality Shift could actually work in that deck as well.
Judgment is a small expansion, and like we say in all of the Commander Sleeper Series videos based around small expansions, we are not going to pad it. We're only going to pick the ones that we think have actual viability. However, that means that we probably missed some cards, and we need you to let us know what those cards are in the comments below.
The conversation carries on down there. I hope you've enjoyed this video. This is a small set of cards, so we're happy to be able to find at least a couple picks. That way we don't have to leave Judgment out of the Commander Sleeper Series. If you do enjoy these videos, click like, click subscribe. It's the best way to support the channel as we continue to grow. Consider checking us out on Patreon. And did I say all the things this time?
You said them all. We stream on YouTube and on Twitch. Make sure you hit that notification bell down there for YouTube so you know when we go live. Or find us on Twitch, Jake and Joel or Magic Jake. I'm tapped out.
That's it.